A previous caller said something that I want to repair, and I didn't challenge it at the time that it went said. But he's like, well, why didn't Donald Trump request a jury trial in New York? Well, Donald Trump wanted a jury trial in New York. Donald Trump was not going to get a jury trial in New York. There are accusations, primarily on the part of the political left, that if Donald Trump wanted a jury to try his case, a jury could have tried his case. But the judge long ago, and I just pulled up the information because I wanted to be accurate, the answer would have been no one way or the other. Judge Arthur Engoron addressed an issue that's been the subject of speculation. This is some months ago, by the way, on social media and by Trump himself, saying it keeps coming up, even though he simultaneously said it was coming up and he doesn't read the newspaper or go online to read about the trial. As we now know, Engoron presided over the bench trial, a bench trial, meaning that the judge himself would make the determination as to the guilt or innocence or the civil liability or lack of liability of Donald Trump in this case, because it is a civil case. Letitia James has accused Donald Trump and his sons and their company and other executives of widespread fraud. No victim, but fraud. Engoron said that in paperwork certifying that the case was ready for trial, the James office checked the box, suggesting that it be a non-jury proceeding. Trump's team had 15 days to oppose that, but did not. Engoron said that they did not because there was never a point in doing so. Let's talk. They said it would not have helped. He said, quote, I just want to clarify this. For those of you claiming that Donald Trump could have had a jury trial if he wanted in New York, listen up. Engoron, it would not have helped to make a motion. Nobody forgot to check off any box. Engoron said the punishment being sought by the state is an equitable remedy as opposed to a legal remedy. Therefore, Donald Trump was not entitled to a jury, according to him. A legal remedy is an award for damages, which can be determined by a jury. The damages would include emotional, physical, or reputational harm or trauma, and they would have to include, naturally, a victim. In the ongoing or the just finalized New York fraud trial, the state was seeking, the state was originally seeking $250 million, and he awarded the state $460 million. I mean, how is it that he decided? Anyway, they claimed at the time that it was an equitable remedy that was a clawback of ill-gotten gain. The amount of benefit that the state claims Trump and his co-defendants personally received from the alleged fraud. And according to them, authorities cannot and would not be able to ask a jury to make any of those calculations. In other words, Engoron said, and I'm quoting now, that leaves it up to the judge. In other words, Engoron was never going to grant a jury trial. Okay? Did Donald Trump deserve one? Under the manipulation of the law, they're getting away with this. I'll put it that way. But that is not going to repair the wrongs that were done during the trial on appeal, which I believe Donald Trump will win. There is no victim in the case. And the state of New York has yet to demonstrate, to my knowledge, the state of New York has yet to demonstrate with any rational thought how Donald Trump received preferential or beneficial treatment from the banks who said that they did their own calculus and their own analysis as to what interest rates to charge him. And they do not believe that any of that would change based on anything that he told them. It's just nonsense. If you're just joining us and you're wondering why this is a story today, just this morning, as Donald Trump faced having to pay a $460 million judgment, thereabouts, to post bond. Apparently, the state of New York, like many other states around the United States of America, as Jay St. Clair told us last week, they may force, they don't have to, and Jay used the Jay used the example of Goodyear. Jay was the lead counsel arguing for Goodyear in the Lilly Ledbetter case. They went all the way to the United States Supreme Court in that case. It was always a timing dispute, a statute of limitations dispute. It was never a pay dispute. And Goodyear won that case. Jay St. Clair won that case. Well, they did not win it on their way to the United States Supreme Court. I forget if they lost at the trial level or at the appellate level. I guess it was at the trial level they lost, and it was a civil matter, and so Goodyear was required to pay a certain amount of money. And technically, according to the law, they had to put that money up prior to appealing the case, but it was never requested by the prosecution because the prosecution understood that Goodyear was good for it. Obviously, Letitia James has a different interest in mind. She doesn't care whether Donald Trump is good for it or not. She wants to embarrass him. Her entire purpose and point is to stand before all of these cameras and put the locks on the doors of Trump Tower. That's what they want to do. They want to lock up Mar-a-Lago and prevent Donald Trump from staying or living there. They want to put the locks on Trump Tower in New York State. They want to lock up all of his business operations and try to sell it off with a grand showing and spectacle. They want the political prosecution and persecution that this is. So it was never about a ruling. Anyway, the appellate courts today said, stop it, to the AG. They slapped her down and said he has to post $175 million within the next 10 days until such time as we determine whether or not he is liable for this civil order or not. So that's good news. It was a big win for Donald Trump today, as he will be able to post a bond or in some fashion do what is requested by the appellate court. In the meantime, the judge in another New York case rejected Donald Trump's request to push off his hush money trial, and that is set for trial on April 15th. There is some more. The Supreme Courts are making argument on or hearing arguments on immunity claims on April 25th. In May, there is a determination about the case, I think, in Georgia, and then there's another one in June. Lawfare, instead of political warfare, lawfare continues against Donald Trump as he desperately attempts to run for president of the United States of America. In the meantime, it's Lindsay's turn in Pleasant Valley. Hello, Lindsay. How are you?
Hey, Matt. I want to strongly disagree with the caller before last. But first, I want to tell you why I said nice jacket the other day, because you're wearing it again. I think the 25 current viewers that are watching you, hey, wave, could agree that you're bending down over the microphone and all we see is the zipper. So it looked like a jacket. Hey, thanks for the wave.
You're welcome.
So the caller before the last veteran, God bless him, was talking about impeaching Biden.
Yes.
Well, he said it's the right thing to do, so we should do it anyway. I strongly disagree. That sounds like instant gratification. It's just selfish. I think we need to think about the end game. Maybe if we'd done it years ago, I can't stand Biden. But at this point, I would definitely agree that it would just do way more good for him in the polls than is not going to happen anyway.
Impeachment.
So I don't think that's the right thing to do.
I agree with you at this stage of the proceedings. Look, I think we're using, broadly speaking, and Lindsay, thank you for the call and thank you for the pleasant words about my my zip up. And yes, I'm wearing it. I think this is the same one. Oh no, that's hairspray. That's not dandruff, or dandruff, not hairspray. I speak to the Super Talk TV folk who are on a variety of platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Are we on Twitter, or are they considering us still the Chris Hand Show? Remember that was a problem.
Yeah, it's been a problem more than once. I won't be able to tell till we're done.
Huh.
Chris Hand takeover. It's happening.
What?
6 hours a day.
Aren't you supposed to be somewhere else?
Hey, wait a minute. Let me see if let me try this. You ready? You ready, Maury?
Yeah.
All right. Show starts at 9, Bell.
there it is.
Like that?
Bingo.
Show doesn't actually start at 9. It bothers me every time he says it, but I understand why he says it the way he says it. But it's like, actually, it starts like 9:05. But whatever. Dan Mandis is thinking that too. It's 9:05. Appointment listening, Chris. One way or the other. The show does not start at 9. The show starts at noon. And Chris will be back on Wednesday. I do believe impeachment is a political process. It's not a legal one. Impeachment was designed to, in the most egregious of circumstances, have an avenue, an exit ramp in our political process for the worst of the worst. Most of what Joe Biden is guilty of is wrong. If provable in court, illegal. If proven in court, could result in jail time. And all of those things need to be fully vetted and fully adjudicated by a Justice Department that does not put their thumb on the scales, which they consistently do for Joe Biden. I don't think that Joe Biden should be under threat of impeachment based on his keeping of classified documents in his basement or in his storage areas any more than Donald Trump should be. I do have a problem with Joe Biden lying about it and conveniently misremembering it during his testimony. Ultimately, we have a better, more expedited way that will not harm us politically in dispatching of Joe Biden. Thankfully, today is March 25th, 2024. We have March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. We have less than 8 months left of this nonsense. If we as an American citizenry recognize what nonsense it truly is, and if we do not allow the powers that be to finagle their way into the shenanigans that led them to 2020's election victory. I'm talking about doing things extracurricular to the law to get themselves votes. It is a far more expedited process with everything that we face, with a razor-thin majority in the House, with a non-majority in the Senate. Do you understand what Joe Biden would have to do to get a Senate conviction? I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but he'd have to go up to New York City and kill a guy on 6th Avenue.
I think it was 5th.
Was it 5th?
Yes.
Okay, let me redo it. He'd have to go to New York City and kill a guy on 5th Avenue. And even then, I don't think the Democrats would vote for conviction. Because it's a political deal.
Is it a simple majority or is it 3/4?
It's a 60-vote majority.
60 vote, okay.
You have to have 60 out of the 100. So, or actually, I tell you that, it might be 66. It might be 2/3. I know it's a super majority in the Senate. It's not a simple majority in the Senate. I think impeachment requires 2/3 of the Senate. Check me on that. It's either 3/5 or 2/3. It's 60 or 66. One way or the other. There's no way that's happening. So does that mean that we should not continue the investigation? Of course it doesn't. We should continue the investigation. We should try to get to the bottom of it and get to the truth. At very least, the truth about what Joe knew and did not know during his vice presidency, what monies he was able to collect during his vice presidency. That should be a part of the record one way or the other.
2/3.
66 or 67, I guess it would be. You don't have anywhere near that. I don't know that you could get all the Republicans on your side at this point. The point is, you need majorities in both houses. You do that the old-fashioned way. You need the White House back. We're going to do this the old-fashioned way. Everyone wants the magic bullet that will make all of this Joe Biden mess go away. That magic bullet happens in November. It does not happen through the political process that is impeachment. And frankly, at the risk of pissing a lot of you off, we're using impeachment way too much as a political bludgeon. Now, in the case of Joe Biden, I understand why. I understand the dirty dealings that he has been engaged in for all of his adult life, for all of his life in politics. And I understand why it's so frustrating to you, the double standard that exists between someone like Trump and someone like Joe. I get it.